to the Reverend Glenn Stocking. We're seeing God right now. We're looking at God.
Recording in progress.
Hello. You can call him anything, even Fred. Welcome this morning, Reverend Glenn.
Welcome.
Good morning.
Welcome, Reverend Glenn Stocking.
Always glad to be here, even if it is at a different time. I got to sleep in a little bit this morning. I'm sure you guys were working just as hard as ever, but I got to enjoy it. So I'm gonna let you in on a little backstage secret. Every month, Reverend Marzia asks me for the blurb and title of my upcoming talk, and I usually throw something together pretty quickly because if I haven't been thinking about it already, and I send her what I send her, and usually the next day or two I'll get a message back saying, "Oh, we're so excited, looking forward to your talk to see how this unfolds." Well, this month she didn't send anything, so I have a feeling she's really worried about this one. Let's see where it goes.
My apologies.
No problem. No problem.
Apologize on air. This month has just been unbelievable.
No problem at all.
I apologize.
So where does this title come from? Only Shade of Green. Well, it starts out because my father was born into the age of the automobile. Now, understand, he wasn't a gearhead. In fact, he worked on cars for a living, but he never brought his work home. In fact, he refused, except for a few things on our own cars, he wouldn't work on anybody else's car at our house. They had to take it to the shop where he got paid, and that's where he did that. But his love of the automobile stemmed from the freedom unleashed by the automobile, with its ability to take a simple farm boy anywhere he wanted to go and to places he could not begin to imagine. The Sunday drive was his favorite pastime. Long cross-country road trips were a staple of my childhood. Something I inherited from him was his intolerance for people who do not take driving seriously. Now, I don't know what personal issues or roadside distractions predated cell phones. Those are lost to my memory, but people driving while not driving could raise his temperature faster than anything else in the world. I'm talking about those people that aren't paying attention. What are you waiting for? It's the only shade of green they've got. Is a phrase I certainly learned from him, reinforced at many overburdened intersections where somebody wasn't paying attention. I caught myself using this phrase recently, and since traffic wasn't moving, had some time to delve deeper into it. Spirit, you'll recall, is a builder. Spirit is always creating. Even when it appears not to be, Spirit is creating. Those self-doubts, negative reinforcements, and denials of empowerment we experience when our minds are idle are evidence Spirit creating in the absence of positive guidance. In the language of my traditional upbringing, idle hands are the devil's tools. In our understanding aligned with the science of mind, our mind, not aligned with spiritual principle, is casting spirit adrift to create from any random thought or belief it encounters. For the uninitiated, maintaining alignment with the spirit requires some not insignificant effort. Traditional teachings experience the same phenomenon. Calls to prayer, authorized dress codes, approved dietary edicts, and a litany of sacred traditions are all efforts to keep the faithful within the guardrails of spiritual alignment. Religious science employs its own guardrails for the same purpose. Affirmative treatment and meditation are used hand in hand to keep our minds on track and out of the weeds. Of the two, only affirmative treatment is absolutely required in our personal bug out bag. Affirmative treatment is the bucket of cold water on our face that focuses our attention on solutions in the present, here and now. Affirmative treatment is the tool that we can use on a moment by moment basis to keep us in alignment. Meditation is a useful adjunct tool, useful for clearing our mind of distraction and chatter, but if I may be so bold, can be itself a distraction where a clear and decisive treatment can get the traffic moving and clear the intersections of our cluttered thinking. Ernest Holmes writes in the Science of Mind textbook that back of what we call the human body, there must be a divine body. It is not necessary to visualize the spiritual body, he writes, but we could sense body as a spiritual idea, that the flow, circulation of life through it is complete. It is not inhibited, not congested. Holmes is speaking here of grasping the whole idea of spirit as this thing that is, but is without form or limitations. If we must have an if we must have an illustration, imagine opening a large can of baked beans and pouring its contents into a cooking pan. The shape of the mass of beans has evolved from conforming to the shape of the can to conforming to the shape of the pan. But the beans are still beans and their potential unchanged. Now imagine the original can of beans to be in the hands of the teacher Jesus, and his belief has been worked upon it as in the story of the loaves and fishes. Beans flow out of the can without end, pouring over the rim of the pan, out onto the stove, out onto the floor, and out the nearest door. There's no crack, crevice, hole, ditch, or gully free of the flowing beans. Spirit cannot be contained, held back, or even denied, regardless of our efforts to do so. It is not inhibited. For spirit, the light is always green, the highway open and flowing forward toward a horizon where the sun never sets, and the rain only falls on the sides of the road. Holmes writes again, if one would take time to let go of all that is not true and lay hold of reality, let go of doubt, distrust, worry, condemnation, and fear, and lay hold of life in its expressions of beauty, truth, and wholeness, our mental congestion would be healed. Keep in mind and body open to the reception of truth. It is the static, fixed, inflexible outlook which produces a tendency on the part of the body and its muscles and functions to become tense and underactive. There is a lesson here for us in this time of political divisiveness. Regardless of which way your tendencies lay, allowing ourselves to be over-immersed in the hand-wringing and gnashing of teeth constantly fed by the modern 24/7 news cycle is unproductive and at best and unhealthy in the long run. Doubt, distrust, worry, condemnation, and fear do not exist in spirit. How then do we allow so much rent-free space in our heads for their upkeep and storage? We bog ourselves down worrying about a past we cannot change. We fantasize about a future whose mere arrival is uncertain. We expend untold amounts of energy trying to fix other people's problems, often without their consent or caring, then expend more energy and anger when our unsolicited efforts go unappreciated. We lock ourselves into a carefully constructed portrait of how we defined happiness and perfection, while the world around us unfolds as a chaotic, artificial intelligence generated video where shapes, sounds, and colors are randomly changing in a constant barrage of assaults on our senses. And the more desperately we hang on to our illusions, the more tattered our grip on reality becomes. The veil between truth and fiction shears away, leaving us embroiled in Alice's Wonderland, where up is down, down is up, and the Mad Queen orders off with their heads as the solution to every obstacle, big, small, real, or imagined. Again, Holmes is writing, if physical emotions unexpressed can congest the subjective thought, producing mental and physical confusion, and they can, it follows that unexpressed spiritual emotions can congest the soul and hinder a more complete flow of life through the individual. This is in accordance with the law. First, for those unaccustomed to the language somewhat unique to religious science, the capital L, law, is how spirit creates. The law is the guardrails within which spirit functions. The law says the light is always green, and whatever we energize with our belief is what manifests in our experience. The message here being that denying our spiritual truth leads to less than desirable results. When we choke off our spiritual truth, we restrict the flow of spiritual truth in our lives. We leave ourselves open to spiritual randomness, spirit working on whatever stray thought or belief we are empowering in the moment. Since we are likely to be unaware of empowering those ideas and beliefs, we fall victim to believing our misfortunes are the result of some outside force, some demon or devil undescribed. Once that path we follow, deeper and deeper we descend into the depths of duality, seeing ourselves separate from the one. Forever a victim, forever doomed. Again from Holmes, the spiral of life is upward. Evolution carries us forward, not backward. Eternal and progressive expansion is its law, and there are no breaks in its continuity. It seems to me that our evolution is the result of an unfolding consciousness of that which already is, and needs but to be realized to become a fact of everyday life. And this brings us to this season of renewal, the recognition that our light in the form of longer days is returning to us here in the Northern Hemisphere. The celebration of a new way of thinking is told through the holiday traditions of a new teacher being born, or endless light where none was expected. The spiritual truth that we know where every breath is an opportunity to realign with spirit and change the trajectory of our experience in this life. Embracing our spiritual power. Recognizing our responsibility to maintain our alignment, to use the tools of treatment and meditation, to detach ourselves from the busyness around us, the flashing lights, the honking horns, screeching sirens, and voices raised in fear and anger. The gift of our spiritual truth is already laid before us. The law moves us forward. The natural arc of spirit is always upward and forward. The only thing holding us back is our own choices. To realize the bounty afforded us, we must recognize the bounty before us. See the opportunity in every challenge, the diamond in every lump of coal. Looking back and longing for a different experience only allows evolution to break out farther and farther ahead, leaving us stuck farther and farther behind, buried in the traffic of someone else's road, someone else's dream, standing still, believing others are blocking our path, obscuring our light, and defining our happiness. We are built to explore, move forward, and evolve into the unknown. Again from Holmes, the words of the teacher Jesus, the words of the teacher Jesus, whose birth is celebrated in this season. This is from the Bible. I'm sorry, not from me, or not from Holmes. He that believeth on me, the works that I do, he shall do also, and greater works than these shall he do. These words are telling us we are not meant to stop and admire the works of others and cast our lives in stone as they have defined it. No, by embracing our spiritual truth, by recognizing our own empowerment, by maintaining our alignment with Spirit, we are defining our experience. We are not being herded like so many sheep by a collective consciousness we have no power to influence. We are empowered to bend the collective consciousness toward universal enlightenment, a world where everyone understands how the universe works. So where do you want to go? And what are you waiting for? It's the only shade of green they've got. Thank you.